Hello and welcome to Reality Check. Tonight an exclusive, how demonetization 8 months later has stalled Maharashtra's cash handout to farmers. Now all the headlines have been about Maharashtra's loan waiver, but it's a more immediate scheme that has escaped attention. A decision to give 10,000 rupees cash in hand to deserving farmers to tide them over till the waiver gets sorted out. Now farmers in Maharashtra rushed to their local cooperative bank, but to find that there is no cash. Why? Because believe it or not, the banks are still sitting on crores of old cash, which even now hasn't been converted to new. Anand Zanane and Sonal Matharu have this exclusive report.
As farmers in Maharashtra wait for a loan waiver, the government, to placate tempers, announced this: an immediate 10,000 rupees cash handout to farmers so they can make the purchases needed for the coming season. But the plan has run into a problem. Many of Maharashtra's cooperative banks do not have cash. The reason, they still have crores of cash in old currency, which the RBI is refusing to convert.
ये NDTV बैंक में जो के 342 करोड़ रुपए 500 और 1000 के नोटा पड़े ले, इसके वजह से हमें दिक्कत हो रही है। शासन ने हमें पत्र भेज दिया है कि 10,000 रुपए हर फार्मर को देना है। जो निकल दिया है बहुत कुछ है, इसलिए कोई शेतकरी हमारे पास लेने के नहीं आ रहा है।
कैश हमारी आरबीआई ने उठाई नहीं, उसकी वजह से कैश का प्रॉब्लम जा रहा है।
यानी पुरानी जो पुरानी जो कैश है
वो कैश अभी भी पड़ी हुई है बैंक में। इसका समझा विड्रॉल है 50,000 का, उसको बोलना पड़ता कि 10,000 लो, तो वो बोलता कि 10,000 नहीं, होता नहीं।
It is not just in 2 districts. NDTV reached out to at least 5 district cooperative banks to come across a similar response.
The head of Maharashtra's cooperative bank told us that a very large amount of this cash is still stuck with these local banks.
Altogether in the Maharashtra 2,700 crores, 2,770 crores.
He says the RBI is refusing to accept the old cash without doing due diligence on whether this is black money.
Even they have asked the NABARD also to verify the KYC and other things, so they did it. I think that this one decision is expected from the Reserve Bank.
Meanwhile, farmers who visit these banks are being turned back.
अंगूर का बगीचा है, कोई फ्लावर है, अंगूर का 10 रुपया केजी से पैसा मिला, हमको पैसा भी नहीं मिला, इसलिए गवर्नमेंट बोला हमको 10,000 रुपये देंगे, तो वो भी अभी तक नहीं मिला। हमारा 1.25 लाख रुपया बोझा है बैंक का, वो भी अभी कम नहीं हुआ।
मेरे 1.5 एकड़ जमीन है, 1.5 एकड़ में ये करने का और इसमें अभी एंगल करके और चलाने का मेरे पास पैसा नहीं। सरकार बोले 10,000 में देगा, 10,000 में क्या होगा? इधर 10,000 मांगने को गए थे बैंक की, तो बैंक में बोला तुम्हारा कुछ प्रोसीजर नहीं आया, तो क्या करेंगे?
To show that the scheme is working, a hastily arranged photo op, a cabinet minister outside a district bank in Akola distributing cash to farmers.
13 तालुकों में आज हमने ये चालू कर दिया है अग्रिम एडवांस देना। एक नॉमिनल सेल्फ डिक्लेरेशन के फॉर्म के ऊपर उनके दस्तखत लेके उनके खिसे तक, उनके घर तक, उनके ये इमरजेंसी में पैसे पहुंचाने का काम राज्य शासन करेगा।
It's unclear how many farmers will get paid. The farmers we spoke to say they were called and told they are eligible for the cash handout.
हमको तो आज जीआर मिलने के बाद बुलाया गया फोन करके कि आप गवर्नमेंट के जो निकष है उसमें बैठ सकते हैं, तो आपको 10,000 रुपये हम दे सकते हैं।
10,000 रुपये मिले तो हमारे थोड़ा सा आनंद हुआ, लेकिन हमको किसानों को जल्दी से जल्दी कर्जा मिलने को होना, क्योंकि 10,000 में कुछ भी नहीं होता। मेरे पास 4.5 एकड़ मेरे नाम पर खेती है और मेरे पर 34,000 कर्जा था।
This is not the only problem confronting the rupees 10,000 cash handout. Farmer groups protested, saying the conditions it has set for eligibility, supposedly to weed out non-farmers, are too stringent. For instance, the original government order ruled out anyone who has a licensed 4-wheeler or filing income tax return, or has a family member who is a government employee. Faced with angry farmer protests, the government went ahead and diluted the rules somewhat. So a farmer who owns a 4-wheeler which costs more than 10 lakh rupees is now ineligible. A farmer whose family member works with the government, earns more than 20,000 rupees is also ineligible. Even so, it still begs the question, where will this cash come from? With Sonal Matharu, Dhananjay Sable and Kishore Belsare, this is Anand Zanane for NDTV.
So, our big exclusive that Absolutely no cash in these banks because of Notebandi, the legacy of Notebandi. Now, just to put this in context, the standoff in Maharashtra goes back to when demonetization was announced. And all banks, including cooperative banks, began to accept old currency. But 4 days later, the RBI said that cooperative banks cannot accept old notes because they don't have the same strict diligence as other banks do. They don't come under the RBI. By then, these district banks had received close to 9,000 crores in deposits across India. And since then, the cooperative banks and the government and the RBI have been locked in a prolonged legal battle to get the old cash converted to new. But as of date, that has still not happened. Well, I spoke earlier today to Dr. M.L. Sukhdeve, who's the chairman of the Maharashtra State Cooperative Bank, and I began by asking him what exactly he plans to do to fix this cash shortage, this problem.
For that purpose, we will be, Maharashtra State Cooperative Bank will support them. Okay,
so you have the money to support these district banks which don't have cash?
We have the money. We have the money. Even suppose I'm just giving the example. Suppose there is a requirement of the 1,000 crores or something also for towards this 10,000. Yes, Maharashtra State Cooperative Bank can spare 1,000 crores. Subject to again the.
Okay, now just to repeat that figure, we heard you say that in the story, but just to clarify it again, you're saying that almost 2,700 crores of old cash is still stuck in these district banks. Is that correct?
2,770 crores.
2,770 crores is still stuck. Now, just explain to us once again why the RBI is not still taking this old cash back.
No, they have they are collect this one. They have asked the NABARD also to have the KYC and KYC. NABARD has did this one also. We are expecting this one decision from the Reserve Bank.
Okay, KYC of course is know your customer. Now, is it because the RBI suspects that this could be black money?
No, that we cannot say that we cannot say that it is the black money.
Okay, you're being non-committal there. But last question to you, Mr. Sukhdeve, how long is it before the farmers will get this money?
See, this once the formalities are completed, also within a week, also they can get the money. 10,000. I'm talking about 10,000.
All right, saying that within a week the money will come, but that seems somewhat optimistic given the situation. Joining us tonight to debate this big exclusive, Dr. Jagdish Shettigar, who's been economic advisor to Prime Minister Vajpayee in the past, member of the BJP. Thanks for being with us. Also Harish Damodaran, Rural Affairs Editor, The Indian Express. Joining us live from Pune, Raghunath Dada Patil, President of the Shetkari Sangatna, a farmers organization which has been at the heart of the protests in Maharashtra and also the demand for the loan waiver. And joining us, Sanjay Jha, spokesperson, Congress as well. First to you, Dr. Shettigar. Now, what do you make of this? The fact that 8 months later, the impact or the legacy of Notebandi is still casting its shadow. Here you have farmers who can't get their money, this 10,000 rupees which the BJP government has announced, because the banks have still not been able to convert the old cash into new.
No, first of all, right from the day one,
yes,
the cooperatives banks were not allowed to convert the old notes because of the reasons that it is suspected that...
Right, it wasn't actually day one, it was actually 4 days later.
No, anyway,
that's why there was this huge amount of almost 9,000 crores. Which
there was a strong reason, because since the cooperative banks were controlled mostly by the political leaders, it was suspected that mostly the black money may get converted. That was the reason. Now, as far as the conversion of the old notes into the new notes, anyway, they could have done it within the stipulated date, that is the 31st December.
Yes.
Now, if it was not done, now it leads to so many questions. Whose money is that? Whether so-called 2,700 crores, is it really black money? And does it belong to the farmers? There are so many questions.
No, but why shouldn't it have been done much earlier? Because we are now almost into July. This is an exercise that was completed by the middle of November.
Who is to be blamed? Obviously, it is a cooperative bank. Since the RBI had given the time, last date within which they were supposed to get
No, sir, I don't think, no, just to understand, it's not the fault of the cooperative banks. The RBI has refused to convert this money It's not that the cooperative banks are not able to deposit it with the RBI. The RBI has instructed all commercial banks, private as well as public sector banks, to not accept money from district cooperative banks. That's why the matter is in Supreme Court, and that's why it's still not been resolved.
The cooperative banks, it is a separate issue. As far as the individuals are concerned, including the farmers,
yes,
if they really wanted to get the money converted into the new note,
yes,
so like any other individual,
yes,
they also could have done it. Now the question is why it has not been done. Now that is why there is a
RBI restriction.
No, as far as this 2,700 crores is concerned,
yes,
I think still there is a possibility. Probably one has to negotiate. I mean, not exactly. I mean, I should not use the word.
Actually,
the negotiation. They have to prove that.
This is what. Let me update you and everyone with the facts. This is what I was told by somebody who's part of the district cooperative bank, that both sides went to the Supreme Court, the RBI and the cooperative banks and the government. The Supreme Court said that NABARD should form a committee and do due diligence of the cooperative banks and submit a report to the Supreme Court, so that RBI can then go ahead and convert the money. That report has been sitting with the RBI for 2 months, according to this official, and the RBI has not taken any decision. Raghunath Dada Patil, आप हमारे शो में जुड़े, उसके लिए धन्यवाद. ये एक प्रॉब्लम हम देख रहे हैं. मैं जानता हूं कि आपने इस 10,000 रुपये जो हैंड आउट है उसका आपने विरोध किया है दूसरे रीजंस के लिए, कि ये बहुत उसके कंडीशन स्ट्रिंजेंट हैं, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हैज रोल्ड देम बैक. लेकिन हम एक और फैक्ट ये सामने ला रहे हैं कि बैंक्स के पास कैश ही नहीं है, कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स के पास. ये कितना बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है?
ये जो है आज जो ये घटना हो रही है, ये किसानों का लोन है, उसका आंदोलन शुरू है, तो इसके लिए इनको कुछ टाइम था, ये सरकार मांग रही थी
जी.
तो हमने कहा कि अभी जल्दी है, जून महीना शुरू हो रहा है, बच्चों के स्कूल शुरू होने वाले हैं, मौसम है बोने का है, और ये सब के लिए हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है, तो किसान को 10,000 से ऊपर या 10,000 तक कुछ ना कुछ तो ऐसा पैसे दे दो कि जल्दी से उसका काम निपट जाए. तो इन्होंने एक जीआर निकाला. इस जीआर में इतने शर्तें रखी कि किसी को 10,000 मिलने वाले नहीं है, और भी ये शर्तें पूरे करने वाला आदमी एक अगर बैंक में गया भी तो भी वो इनका जीआर को बैंक कुछ महत्व नहीं दे रही है.
नहीं, एक तो शर्तों का सवाल है, दूसरा ये भी प्रॉब्लम है जैसे हमने अभी दिखाया कि कैश ही नहीं है बैंक्स के पास.
हाँ, ये तो मैं बताने वाला हूँ कि अभी अगर ये रिजर्व बैंक है, ऑटोनॉमस बॉडी है, तो इसको तो कोई ये रिजर्व बैंक के लिए सब बैंक्स अच्छे और एक साथ की बर्ताव करना चाहिए. कोऑपरेटिव के साथ ऐसे सगे बेटे जैसा नहीं हो रहा है, सौतेले बेटे जैसा व्यवहार हो रहा है. ये बैंक का ठीक नहीं है कि केवाईसी के नॉर्म्स पर अगर बैंक का 2 बार चेकिंग हो गया है, हमारे सब कोऑपरेटिव बैंकों का चेकिंग हो गया, अगर उसमें कोई गलती है, अगर कोई ब्लैक मनी है तो उसके ऊपर कोई कानूनी कार्रवाई करो. लेकिन पूरा 8 महीने सभी पैसा ऐसा ही पड़ा रहा है कि सरकार का ये रवैया ठीक नहीं है कि हमारे पैसे हमको नहीं मिल रहे हैं, लेकिन जो भी कुछ करना है तो किसानों के साथ ऐसा व्यवहार हो रहा है कि वो रोजाना 10-12 लोग खुदकुशी कर रहे हैं. फिर भी
जी रघुनाथ जी you're saying, संजय झा, अच्छा रघुनाथ जी मैं आ रहा हूँ आपके पास, दोबारा आ रहा हूँ. If I can bring in संजय झा, आप कह रहे हैं, you are saying that the know your customer diligence has been done several times, but despite that the cash is not being converted. It almost seems, Sanjay Jha, that the government is reluctant to take back old notes in this panic that the more old currency comes back, the more it questions the demonetization experiment, even if it means farmers have to suffer.
You know, Vasu, to be very honest, I'm very stunned by the RBI's, decision exactly 4 days after demonetization was announced, because you can't take a decision of this kind in such a unilateral way. I mean, look at the liquidity crisis that is happening, and that's a reality, by the way. And you know, the rural farmers, they actually have their deposits and their loans happening with the district cooperative bank because they have better penetration in the interiors of Maharashtra.
Right.
And they don't really have it with scheduled commercial banks or PSUs. But you know, the interesting point, Vasu, is that the logic of saying that, you know, they don't have due diligence and therefore the money is black money.
Yes.
Well, let's assume they don't have as good a due diligence as the private sector banks or
Yes.
PSU banks.
Yes.
But the whole purpose of demonetization was to get the black money culprits to be caught.
Yes.
So supposing if I or you had deposited illegally some money in a cooperative bank, I mean, there is a trail to catch the people.
Yes. So
but
at
to
least,
say that I will not
at least,
change
yes,
it to the
at
notes
least convert
itself
the cash
in a blanket way
Yeah.
is preposterous. It's bizarre economic logic.